Hey, what's up, guys? Curious Wanderer here. I'm going to do something a little different today than I usually do. I'm going to make a reaction video. So basically, I was scrolling Twitter and I came across this guy who calls himself Nezahual Doomer 2. I think I said that right. Anyway, he posted this list of games that he considers to be woke. And I kind of went off on him, if I'm being honest. I quote tweeted him and I said, you must be shit posting. Some of the games on that list I can understand, but Clair Obscur, Tainted Grail, get the fuck out of here. To his credit, after my somewhat snippy response, he did not immediately become hostile. He just linked his review. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess in the interest of fairness, since he's trying to have a conversation with me, I'll go ahead and take a look at this and tell him what I think. So I told him as much. Thing is, there's a bit too much to respond to in just text form, so I'm going to go ahead and watch the first part of this video and give my opinions on some of the things that he says. I won't be reacting to the whole 23-minute video simply because the first part he focuses on what he calls the woke aspects of the game, and the second part he talks about gameplay and all the usual stuff. And he says that, in his opinion, it is actually a good game. He just considers the woke elements that he says he sees to be unfortunate. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and review this.
Before I start the review, I will tell you that this video will have some spoilers that are important to give context to what I am saying. I will try to warn you with some text, but don't worry, most of the time this will be spoiler free. This game is very good. It came out as a surprise. Whenever I watched the trailers or the promotion material, I thought the game looked like slop. I really didn't thought that the game would be this good, or that there could be such a good game coming this year. This is how demoralized we gamers are. We can't really expect to have actual good games anymore. I wish I could just say that this game is really good, which it is, and be done with it. Unfortunately, I can't, and
So I think he's correct on that one point. Gamers are so accustomed to getting bad stuff that even a game that maybe back in the day we would have said is trash is thought of well by some people simply because they're so used to getting slop. So that's a fair point right there. That's nothing to do with the woke stuff. I just thought I'd comment on that real quick. I think it does mean that we're probably more, our standards for quality have gone down. And I do consider that to be a problem. It's something that will have to kind of work itself out over time, I think. Anyway, let's continue.
I can't because obviously the game isn't perfect. I have some grievances with the gameplay, fortunately not a lot, but there is a big one there among those. But also the game does in fact feature cultural Marxism. For the retards, yes, the game is woke. I will tackle that first before I talk about the gameplay, and I will be clear. In my reviews, the woke content doesn't affect the score of the game. I reviewed the game exclusively on its gameplay merits. Why? Because if a game is completely plagued by woke trash to the point that it even affects the gameplay or makes it an unenjoyable experience, I just don't even play them. Like Assassin's Creed Shadows.
So I can definitely identify with what he just said. There are games like Assassin's Creed Shadows, We Was Samurai and shit, trying to make historical Japan into this black power fantasy. And then we got stuff like Dragon Age Veilguard, where Tash talks at length about how she's non-binary and there's transgender nonsense, and that utterly destroys any enjoyment in a game. I will say that I do have some tolerance for slight woke elements as long as it doesn't overshadow the overall game experience. For example, the Mass Effect trilogy I thought was stunning. What an amazing series of games. But they do put in the option to have homosexual relationships. I could have done without that. I am glad it was optional. I just ignored it. They were still great games. So I think there is room to kind of pick and choose. It's going to vary for everyone. But there is wiggle room in there, I think. I don't think we have to reject a game just because it has a single woke element or just a couple woke elements.
About Concord, Star Wars The Outlaws, I just avoid them. It's just not worth submitting myself to that torture to push out a fucking review. I will still show you how the game I review is woke, because I am completely against cultural Marxism. I don't want these ideologies in my games, and because the amount of fanatics that make blind eye to them are in the millions. So I am going to do what every coward out there isn't willing to do, and say the truth. Here is why Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is woke. Before I start the list, I will say this to you. I knew the game was going to be woke. Since the trailer and the promotion as material were shown, I knew it. The tone of the game, the amount of women, how the only male character shown looked. Everything said to me that it was going to be woke.
Alright, I've got a problem with those 2 points. The amount of female characters, how the male character looks. And I think there's a certain amount of subjectivity on Gustav's appearance. This dude says he looked like a soy boy. In my opinion, he looks like a Frenchman. This is how Frenchmen look. They have a certain look about them in terms of their physical characteristics, how they dress. This is just a French man. So, no, I don't think Gustav's appearance says, oh yeah, this game is going to be woke. The other point that he mentioned about the amount of female characters, I think that is not, I don't think that's a fair point, and here's why. Because in the real world, we acknowledge that men are physically stronger than women. Men think differently than women do. They're radically different. Men and women are radically different from each other. Any normal person acknowledges this. However, this game is a fantasy world where men and women alike have these supernatural abilities. And so I think the addition of magical abilities really levels the playing field between the men and women in the game. We can also say that the weapons themselves, if you've played the game, have various different attributes, different stats that will aid just normal slashing attacks, normal combat. So it's a fantasy world, which means the rules change. So I don't think the amount of female characters in this game mean that it's going to be woke just on its own. Look at all of the games in the past that have had pretty strong female characters doing what typically a woman would not be doing in the real world, and we didn't think anything of it because back then wokeness as we know it was not an issue. We acknowledge that it's a video game, it's a fantasy, it's not meant to be realistic. So no, I don't think that the amount of female characters in a game necessarily says, oh, this is going to be woke because of all these women. So I disagree with both of these points, Gustav's appearance and the female characters.
And if you didn't perceive that before the game released, that just shows how tolerant you have become to these ideologies and how much the cultural Marxism infection has advanced in your mind. First of all, you're greeted with multiculturalism in a game that is supposedly taking place in the Belle Epoque between 1870 and 1914. There is no way that there were blacks or even other races like Asians Latinos, or whomever, there is just no way, and just at the intro of the game you see tons of the same copy-pasted blacks around you.
Okay, here's the problem with this. If this game were set in historical France, like real world historical France, and people had magical powers, I would say yes, he's right. There shouldn't be all these black people because that doesn't line up with history. However, it is very apparent from the beginning that this is not the real world France that we know of. Lumiere is an island. It's not a city on a continent. This is not the Paris that we know of. The Eiffel Tower is all bent. The game doesn't tell you at first what is going on, of course, because the story has to unfold. But it is very apparent from the beginning that this is some sort of an alternate world or alternate history, alternate timeline of some sort. And so, given these circumstances, the history of this place could be anything. There could be some reason that explains why there's so many black people. Ultimately, and this is a major spoiler, so fast forward a little bit if you don't want to hear this. Ultimately, we find out that this is not the real world. Every one of these characters is a painting. They all exist in a painted world. So a painted world does not have to reflect the real world. I really think this is a stretch.
Deal! Got a deal! What's that? What's that, brother?
It's absurd. Clearly this is multiculturalism pushing, which is part of cultural Marxism. Let's talk about feminism now. From the cast of main characters, which the vast majority of them are women, of diverse women even.
So I just want to say here, probably the reason that most of the characters are women is for no other reason than male gamers like looking at attractive female characters. I really don't think it's any deeper than that. That's just my personal opinion.
To being basically all in positions of power. Gustav's sister is no other than the chief counselor of where these people live. Yes, a woman is leading these people. No.
Okay. So we have to consider the fact that historically, women being in significant positions of power was a rarity, but it was not something that never happened. So just because we have Gustav's sister in a position of power here, I don't think that means anything on its own. We've had queens in the past. If you believe the Bible, as I know some people do, we even had some female leaders in positions of power. They were rare, but they were there. And that depends on if you consider the Bible a historically accurate account. So there is precedent for this in history.
Wonder their expeditions keep failing if they not only send women to basically war, but also allow them to lead their society.
Something else I want to mention is he talks about sending women out on these expeditions. I think he missed the crowd that was just on the screen. There's a good mix of women and men. It's just the surviving members, the way it worked out, most of them happen to be women.
About these expeditions, it's pretty clear by the start of the game that this world they live in is very dangerous. That is no joke going into an expedition, that they clearly have a low population problem, yet they are not only showing they are very progressive in the way that they are sending women to war, but also even okay with women not having children?
Okay, I don't know if this dude missed it, but the reason some women are not having children is because the gommage, which happens every year. You can see in the background there that monolith with the number 33 on it. Every year the paintress awakens and paints a number on the monolith. Each year it goes down by 1, and everyone of that age dies. They just poof out of existence. The reason the women in this world, many of them, are not wanting to have children is because they will die before their children are old enough to fend for themselves, and they will have to be in orphanages. They will have to rely on the goodwill and kindness of others to look after their children when they're gone, and they do not want to subject their children to that. I think that is perfectly fair and reasonable.
It sounds awfully similar to real life ideologies, no? You don't see any man in that place in positions of power. All the men are portrayed as retards, even the smart ones are women, but hey guys, it's not woke, you fucking idiots. At the beginning of the game, really just at the start, Gustav is about to commit suicide because how bad the expedition starts, and guess who makes him recover his sense? A woman. A woman that somehow saw the same things he saw and it's not affected in any way. This is just bullshit. And talking...
Alright, here's another issue. In the real world, we can say that, generally speaking, things are a certain way. Generally speaking, for example, men are physically stronger than women. But does that mean that there are not some women who are stronger than some men? No, it does not. There are exceptions to every rule. In the same way, out of the billions and billions of people on this planet, there is no way that there is not a woman alive who would be able to look at the horrible things that Gustav witnessed and be okay and kind of bounce back from that. And then there's a man who would see those same things and he would be broken and discouraged. It's statistically impossible. You can't just paint people into a box based on their biological sex. Yes, there are commonalities we can point at. There are patterns, general patterns we can point at. But when you get down to the individual level, there are exceptions to everything. There are some women who are going to be more mentally strong to face horrific circumstances than some men. That's just how it is. So I do not consider this to be an argument. Moreover, what is one of the primary roles of a woman? In my opinion, it is to be supportive to the men in her life, and particularly her husband. So what we see happening here is Lune being a support for Gustav. I don't think the game actually says so, but I think he was supposed to be in some sort of leadership position for the expedition, and likely he felt responsible for everyone who died. And imagine how that must have destroyed him and discouraged him that he couldn't save all of those people. No man is indestructible. Every man at some point becomes discouraged and fails and needs someone to support him. We all need support sometimes. And there's who better to support a man than a woman? And that's one of a woman's primary roles.
About Gustav, this guy is a typical soy boy, beta cock that allows women to get their way, that is completely emasculated. He has some good moments, and I don't even hate the guy because he's a nice guy, but that is precisely the problem. He's way too fucking nice, and no man really wants to play a character like him. Spoiler ahead. Fortunately, Gustav is replaced by Verso, a more masculine and based guy to play as. There is a race of warriors in the game that are pretty cool, but guess who their leader is? Yeah, another woman. The only woman of this race just happens to be the leader of this race. Another coincidence? We are supposedly in the 1870s and women body...
So I will concede that one point. Why was the leader of the Jestrels, Golgra, a woman? Uh, Potential wokeness? Yes, it's potential wokeness. But it could also be nothing. We don't know the thinking behind this design decision. Um, I think there comes a point where you're just nitpicking, and does it dramatically impact the overall quality and enjoyment of the game? No, no, it does not. I have beaten Clair Obscur. It is a fantastic game.
These are completely tattooed. It's so fucking stupid. But if sending women to war is not enough...
This is another point where I wonder if he just missed some things, or how much of this game he actually played. Because the tattoos, according to the lore, are the luminas. So in this game, the way you outfit your party is you find these things called pictos. Each picto grants passive benefits as well as stat boosts. You equip a picto, you win 4 battles with it, you learn its passive ability, and then you can equip that ability as a lumina, even if you're no longer wearing the picto that the lumina came from. Now, the luminas appear on the characters in the form of tattoos. It's how they use their magic. Again, how much of this game did the guy play, and how much was he actually paying attention?
Well, guess who survives the most? Women again. It's literally in your face, guys. You're just pretending it isn't because you like the game. Instead of your party consisting mostly or totally of men, no, you have 1 man and 3 women.
And again, I have to remind my viewers that before wokeness became the problem that it is, gamers didn't care if it was men and women in games, or men or women in games. They cared if the characters were well written and enjoyable. That's all that mattered. Anti-wokeness has to a degree made the anti-woke almost as insufferable as the woke, because they go in the opposite direction of the woke, but they go so far off the deep end that they're looking for problems that just are not there. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion.
Give me a fucking break, retards. Not woke. Spoilers ahead again. The story is basically a wife and his daughter rebelling against their husband and dad respectively. Seriously, what else do you need to hear? And I don't dislike the story, I think it's pretty good, but come on, man, it's in your fucking face.
I know I've said this twice already, but again, how much was this guy actually paying attention? So basically, this is some massive spoilers. So there's this family, a family of painters. They have this ability. It's not explained how they can do this. Maybe that'll be expanded on in another game. But they don't just paint pictures. When they paint on a canvas, they are painting worlds that they can psychically project themselves into and experience. So they can paint whole worlds on these canvases and experience them. At some point, a family member, Verso, the son of Renoir and Aline, died in a fire. And Aline, stricken by grief, Aline is the wife, decides to paint a painted version of Verso in the only canvas that he painted while he was alive. And she escapes into this painting. Renoir, the husband and father, wants his wife to leave the painting because if she stays in there too long, her body in the real world will die. It is revealed later on that one of the party members is Renoir and Aline's daughter. She's just, through a series of events, she's forgotten who she is. And she later finds out who she is again. So when she figures out what's going on, she too wants to stay in the painting while her body dies in the real world because her brother, who is a painted copy and has all of his memories, is there. She wants to be with her brother even if he's not the real Verso. So here's the thing. We have the wife and we have the daughter wanting to stay in the painting and live in a fantasy while their bodies die in the real world. What does Renoir want? The husband and father. He wants his wife and his daughter to leave the painting, to face reality, to grieve and move on with their lives. Verso, the painted copy of Verso, wants that as well. He wants his mother and his sister to leave the painting and to move on with their lives. Now, who was correct in this scenario? Was it the women who want to live in a fantasy? Or was it Renoir and the painted Verso? Was it the men who were correct, that it's better to live in reality, face what is happening, and move toward the future? The women were wrong, the men were right. How much more anti-woke can you get?
Apparently, this game got a movie deal already. That should be a massive red flag. It means this game already passed the woke filters on Hollywood, but you morons keep pretending the game.
Okay, it is kind of strange how quickly this game got a movie deal. I'm not going to lie. I don't know the specific circumstances involved with that, so I'm not going to comment too much, but I did think it was pretty fast.
Is not woke. You will see that just like with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, more info will come, and you will see this game will have some form of consultant types meddling into this game. Some sweet baby types or something. I mean, we didn't need to know any of this new info to know that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was woke.
Alright, now he's kind of sidetracked off of the game, and he's gone into the realm of speculation. But anyway, this was my reaction to the first part of his video. Is Clair Obscur woke? No, I don't think it's woke at all. Or if it is woke, the elements are so minor so as to not be worth worrying about. So, hope you enjoyed. Neza, what's your name again? Neza Hual Doomer 2. I'm gonna post this so you can see it, and you can respond if that's something you want to do. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.